Hello, hello. Welcome to Sit and See. Just adjust my camera a touch there. I'm Dr. Jared Jones. Glad to have you all here. So, yes, bit of an exciting day. We're going to be doing quite a few things today. Going to have this class and then jump straight into a premiere. One of our members by the name of Druggan on YouTube asked me what the relationship between mental health and meditation is, and in particular, this focus on mental illness and the treatment of mental illness. So I put together a pretty short video. It's only 23 minutes, it's about 23, 24 minutes, and it's looking at the overlaps between cognitive scientific research into meditation and the treatment of abnormal states of sort of human psychology, let's say. So, yeah, there we go. That's going to premiere right after this class. This stream should actually directly take you over there if you just wait for this stream to end. And then right after the stream premiere ends, rather, then that will take you right over to a live Q&A. So we're going to be having quite a busy evening this evening for those who are hanging in for everything. And if you're not, just come back later to see it all, I suppose. Well, hey, Jay, welcome. So, for those who are new, I'm Dr. Jared Jones. My research specialties are ancient systems of meditation, Buddhist philosophy, the cognitive science of meditation, and the philosophy of science. I've been a meditator for about 20 years, training in both Buddhism and Taoism uh, to different lengths, different degrees, in pretty good lineages, in traditional environments, including some pretty serious retreats and so forth. And having gone through all of this and studied as hard as I did, both as an academic and as a religious person, I wanted to try to make meditation more accessible to normal folks living in the real world and working jobs and so on and so forth. And so that's why we're here. We're here to learn what I think are the best techniques for training in meditation as a layperson living in the real world. And I've been very pleased. Only 47 days, 48 days now doing this. And I've had a number of people reach out to me who have very, very different backgrounds: Theravada Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, Pure Land, a Sikh gentleman who's mainly training in mantra, and just a number of people reaching out and saying, these things that you're teaching are really helping my practice. And that's the whole point. I call my techniques foundations because the way that I teach them is relatively universal. I'm trying to teach them in a relatively universal and secular way, but nonetheless in a way that takes you to deeper experiences much more quickly and gives you the results of meditation more quickly. And therefore, whatever temple you want to build on top of the foundation is fine by me. If you want to build a Sikh temple on top, no problem. If you want to build a Buddhist temple on top, no problem. You want to build a church on top, go for it. It's up to you. But at least have some foundations that give your mind real force and power and virtue. That's why I'm here. Okay. Hello, hello, my friends. Sweet and sour, welcome. It's good to see you again. I've been talking to you a lot. It's good to see you. Good to see you in class. Barack Obama, welcome. Barack, we need to talk a little bit, you and I, one on one, because as I mentioned, I'm doing my very best to try to, in particular, encourage some practitioners on the African continent because there is so little Dharma and meditation training on the African continent. And I really, 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 if you're interested in going quite deep in this, I'm very interested in helping you make as much progress as you can so that one day, maybe, you know, some years from now, you can begin helping other people um, and bringing these sorts of things to the general awareness of people in various countries across the African continent. Okay, let me let me see. So, some questions coming in. Normally, I take questions for the first part of this class, but I must say, unfortunately, one of my teachers has asked me and informed me that if I'd like to make serious progress in certain things, that I need to do some pretty hardcore practice at the moment, which means that all of you are going to do some pretty hardcore practice with me at the moment because, yeah. Welcome. Welcome to the big leagues. Okay, let's see. You said yesterday we should stay away from letting anything distract us from the object of meditation. Does that mean I should attempt to bring my experience? Okay. Okay. So listen, when you're when you're training in meditation and you've sat down to do a particular thing, as one of my teachers used to say, even if blue Buddhas start melting down through your head, return your mind to the breath. If your object was the breath and you decided to count the breath, it doesn't matter what else happens. I mean, one of the texts is quite funny. It says, if a thief breaks in and lights the building on fire, you shouldn't lose your focus on the you know, I think that's a little extreme. You should probably leave the building if it catches on fire. But basically, this is how strongly the force of intent is communicated in the text. That no matter what happens, no matter what comes up inside or outside, you continue to forcefully bring your mind to the object, especially on these early stages where your mind doesn't have the ability to stay on the object. You have to be very forceful. And it doesn't matter what else comes up, you bring the mind back. It doesn't matter what else occurs, you bring the mind back. That's one aspect. The other aspect is if you're training in taking these these practices off the cushion. So if you're practicing, for example, the 5 points, I'll say this as I usually do: do not take the 5 points or 6 directions or full body awareness practice or these other practices into dangerous situations at the moment. Okay. If you operate heavy machinery, or if you are driving a car, or if you're crossing the street, or whatever, if you're in a place where you don't know that you're pretty darn safe, don't put extra attention into stuff that isn't keeping you alive. Okay. However, the rest of the time, absolutely. You need to be taking more and more and more of your activities, and with these other techniques that come from basically the 5 points onwards, 6 directions of the body, the full body meditation, 6 directions for the vision, hearing, smell, taste, and so on, and just opening those up and being aware of those spheres, meditation on mind. You should be learning over time to take these into more and more and more of your activities, because that's how you gain skill. The whole point is to get it off the cushion and get it into real life. Because at some point, I mean, they say it right there in the text that at some point there should be no difference between your seated sessions and what happens in real life. Think about that. You remember when Neil Ripsky was on the podcast? Those of you who watched the podcast, the first episode, and he said that his teacher brought out a stopwatch and he was breathing 1 time a minute, even while he was walking around the shop and stuff. This is the point, right? At some point, your practice is who you are. Okay, so Oates asks, is there a difference between witnessing the breath and not being the breath? Yeah. So when the concentration gets good enough, then you'll have a non-dual experience of that thing. Because in reality, the type of consciousness that generates the experience of tactile sensation is the tactile mind. And your main mind, at least in my understanding, is the one that puts a concept in between the two and says, you're over here witnessing it, you, Oates, you're over here somewhere, and the thing you're looking at is over here. When in reality, actually, this mind is generating the experience. Something got stimulated physically and it generates a tactile sensation, but the image is what you experience, and the image is coming from this mind, not from over here on your skin somewhere. So these two are actually connected like this. So when your concentration gets strong enough on object of experience, then you experience it as not two. In other words, the object and the mind knowing the object can't actually be pulled apart. It only looks that way when conceptual thought divides the two. And you need to divide the two sometimes, otherwise it's hard to do certain things. But yeah, I mean, the one of the sort of fundamental experiences that happens relatively near the beginning is that you start having non-dual experiences of things. Some of my students, hey Ty, welcome. Some of my students, this happens right away, relatively speaking, like within a few weeks. Some of my students, it happens after 3 to 5 years. It depends on the student, it depends on your background, depends on how much work you put in. A big part of it also is, are you studying or not to try to understand what it is you're actually trying to do? Because if you don't understand what you're trying to do, then it makes it a lot harder to make progress in the thing, right? So this is why with all the meditation stuff, I have resources there so you can really understand the moving parts of the practice you're doing. One of a very small number of things that's required to make progress in meditation is to understand the instructions for meditation. This is according to the great masters, not according to me, but also according to me. Okay, dear friends, as I mentioned, we're going to go basically straight from this class into the premiere and then straight from that into Q&A. And so I'm not going to have time to do some of the practices I told my teachers I would do, and therefore I need to do them during this class. And so, for this reason, you're going to do some hardcore practice with me today. Yay! So rather than a lot of guided instruction, which is what I normally do, I would like each of you to go through whatever part of the practices you are comfortable with. So if you'd like to start with intensive breaths, that's fine. I'm going to take you through a short intensive breath, a short body scan, then I'm going to do my own practice for the remainder of the time. And what I'd like you to do with the rest of the time is, if you'd like to do a longer body scan, do that. If you'd like to go short body scan and then start your Mahamudra practices, do that. If you'd like to pull out a book on patience because you're working on the rumination for patience, then pull out your book and start doing rumination on patience or loving kindness. It's up to you. Okay? So that's how we're going to do it today, just because of time. All right. And if that all sounds too boring, then just come back at 9:30 on the nose for the premiere. Yeah? Okay. Here we go. So breathe in through the nose. Find a patch of skin in the nostril. 3, 2, 1. Begin. Okay. Bring the attention to the left foot, left ankle, left calf, knee, lower thigh, upper thigh, hip, right foot, right ankle, right calf, knee, lower thigh, upper thigh, hip, front of the pelvis, back of the pelvis, tailbone, anus, perineum, and sexual organ, dividing the trunk of the body into three pieces. Place your mind on the front of the lower third, in other words, the front of your waist and the back of your waist, the middle third, the front of the diaphragm belt, the back of the diaphragm belt, front of the chest, and the back of the chest, left shoulder, bicep, elbow, forearm, wrist, hand, top of the right shoulder, excuse me, just the whole right shoulder in its entirety, bicep, elbow, forearm, wrist, and hand. Do your whole neck, the joint between the neck and the skull, and your skull. Now, from here, as I said, I'm going to leave it up to you. If you'd like to go into full body awareness, then you can use the 5 points or the 6 directions. You can, excuse me, you can go into straight to full body awareness, or you can go into whichever of the senses you'd like to use. to do Mahamudra style practice. It's up to you. I'm going to be doing some of my own practice until we get to about just before 9:30. Okay. So I think instead of taking questions, since we only have a few minutes, I'm going to transfer over to the next stream. There will be time if we go now for everyone to get a cup of tea, use the restroom, etc. Everyone who's in the stream, if you just stay in this stream, it should automatically transfer you over to the premiere. And then when the premiere ends, same thing, it should automatically transfer you over to the open Q&A. So hope to see you all there.